Good morning everyone, I hope you're well. It's been very different in Hillstone last week. Having just had for the last 10 weeks when we've been in lockdown, a few children in, about 20 to 30 each day. Well, our numbers grew last week and we had children come back from reception in year 1 and year 6. Well, it's just been lovely. I've missed them so much. I miss all of you because all of you children are unique. You're all special to us. So we're all part of the Hillstone family, but each one of you has got all of your different characteristics. And do you know what? Everyone is welcome here. This week's assembly is called No Outsiders. Everyone is welcome at Hillstone School. By no outsiders, it means that nobody, when they come to our school, is made to feel that they're not welcome. They're all part of that Hillstone family. It comes from a title of a book called No Outsiders in Our School. And this is a book that we follow. It's like a scheme of work. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about it a bit later in the assembly. But it was written by this man, Andrew Moffat. Now, Andrew Moffat is a Birmingham teacher. He's a deputy head teacher at a school in the centre of Birmingham. Andrew is gay and he felt a lot of prejudice in his time as a teacher, and he wanted other people not to have to suffer in the same way that he has. But he didn't want it just to be about one aspect. He knew that there were all kinds of aspects that were important. So he's written this book to make sure that everyone knows that everybody is welcome in our schools.
Even today in society, some people don't treat others fairly because they're different to them. We often hear the terms prejudice and discrimination. This is what those terms actually mean. Prejudice is how you feel to someone who is different to you in some way, and discrimination is how you treat someone who is different to you. In the UK, we now have laws to make sure everyone is treated fairly in the Equality Act 2010. It has 9 protected characteristics clearly set out. 1. Age. 2. Disability, which we've already looked at in our Overcoming Adversity assembly. 3. Gender reassignment. 4. Marriage and civil partnership. 5. Pregnancy and maternity. 6. Race. 7. Religion or belief. 8. Sex or gender. And 9. Sexual orientation. In today's assembly, we're going to look at a couple of these in more detail.
The No Outsiders scheme is full of lots of absolutely fabulous books, suitable for any age of children. Here's one that I really love. This is called Bigu. Bigu is not supposed to be on Earth. She's lost. She's a friendly little creature, but the Earth people don't seem very welcoming at all. But so far, she's only met the big ones. The little ones are different. Blue chameleon. And it says on the front, a glorious exploration of colours and shapes. I really love this book. And here's another great story. It's called My Princess Boy. It's a mum story about a young boy who loves to dress up. And it might remind you of a very famous David Walliams book that now has actually been turned into a musical. And here's another great story. This is our house. I'll put a YouTube link just here, and why don't you follow it and hear that story read out to you. A lovely story, certainly affects you.
I've chosen the book to read to you called The Great Big Book of Families. It's by Mary Hoffman and Ross Asquith. And the reason I've chosen that is because it sums up Hillstone. We've got so many different types of families at Hillstone. We've got families with 2 mummies, we've got families with mum and a stepdad, we've got families with just a dad, we've got families with lots of brothers, sisters, all sorts of different families. Are they all made to feel welcome? Of course they are. There's no outsiders at Hillstone. The great big book of families. Once upon a time, most families in books looked like this. One daddy, one mummy, one little boy, one little girl, one dog and one cat. But in real life, families come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. In this book, lots of families living in different ways. Perhaps there's one that looks like yours. Lots of children live with their mummy and daddy, but lots of others live with just their daddy or just their mummy. Some live with their grandma and grandpa. Some children have two mummies or two daddies, and some are adopted or fostered. Some people have lots of brothers and sisters, and uncles and aunties, and cousins, and grandmas and grandpas, and even great-grandmas and great-grandpas. But some people have really small families. You can be a family with just two people. Who's in your family?
Sometimes we see someone who has a physical or mental disability. Because we don't understand them, we may feel cautious or even frightened and think how different they are to us. We may even think that they couldn't be as good as us. Stephen Hawking. Many of us will have heard of the theoretical physicist, astrophysicist, cosmologist and scientist Stephen Hawking. He was diagnosed with ALS at the age of 21. They told him he only had a life expectancy of 2 more years. He lived until he was 76 years old. He had been paralysed from head to toe for over 30 years and used a voice synthesizer to be able to communicate in a wheelchair that he operated through slight movements of the head and eyes.
Particles of nature have been able to come this close to an understanding of the laws governing us and our universe. It's a great triumph.
None of this prevented him from developing his activity as a researcher and professor, and an intense personal life that allowed him to make his illness known to the world. Although I must admit, however groundbreaking his scientific research and publications were, I know him best for being in The Simpsons and The Big Bang Theory. Andrea Bocelli is a musician, singer, writer and musical producer. He was born with a congenital glaucoma that left him partially blind, although that did not prevent him from taking piano lessons and later learning flute, saxophone, trumpet, trombone, guitar and drums. At the age of 12, Bocelli lost his sight completely following an accident during a football game. He was hit in the eye whilst playing goalkeeper during a match and suffered a brain hemorrhage. Doctors tried to save his sight, but they were unsuccessful and he became permanently blind. This did not stop him. He decided to focus entirely on music and specifically on singing, and has sold more than 75 million records, earning over £100 million.
I know that we're really good at Hillstone at accepting and celebrating different families. I'm very proud of that. But I did know there was one area where we ought to get a little bit better, and that was in terms of people's faith. At Hillstone, we've got people of different faiths and of no faith. So we have people who are Christian, we've got people who are Muslims, we've got people who are Jews, we've got some people who are Hindus, I think we've got somebody who's a Sikh. I'm not sure we've got anyone who's a Buddhist, but we celebrate and learn all about those religions. I didn't feel we knew enough about them. And actually, this is where some people can become quite prejudiced or discriminatory against people of different faiths. So I felt it was important that we go to visit and learn more about the different places of worship. This is important, even if you've got no faith, to learn and to understand what other people can believe. Very often, faith, religion, has been corrupted by some people, and people don't have a proper understanding. Where better than to go to the proper places of worship and to learn from the experts what it is that Muslims believe in Islam, what do Christians believe in their religion. So I've arranged for our children and Mr. Campbell's help to go and visit lots of different places of worship. From year 1, we go to visit a church, and actually we've been lucky to go to our local church, All Saints, and also go and visit the church when we go to the Brick House, and we can learn more about the Christian religion. When our children get to year 2, they're studying Judaism and we visit a synagogue. When they're in year 3, we go and visit a vihara to understand about Buddhism. Children in year 4 visit a mandir, which is where Hindus would worship. In year 5, children go to a mosque, which is a place of worship for Muslims. And in year 6, the children go to visit the Gurdwara, and the Gurdwara is where Sikh religion practices their faith. We are so fortunate in Birmingham because we've got the most brilliant examples of all of those different places of worship. Now it's time for our Hillstone prayer. Time to think. May I come to understand that blessings are everywhere, that my attitude will affect outcomes, that challenges are often gifts in disguise. May I come to trust that most things can get better with time, that my instincts and gut feelings have value, that a positive attitude makes things go smoother. May I come to see that I have many skills and talents I can use, that I am a positive influence on many people. There are those around me who wish me well. May I come to value that today is a blessing to be enjoyed, that each person is unique and important, that each moment of my life has meaning.
This week you might have noticed that the news has been dominated by one really important story. It hinges around the death of a man called George Floyd. And all around the world there now have been protests about a certain form of discrimination that we haven't spoken about in this assembly, but we will be speaking about in our next assembly. See if you can talk to your mum and dad about what's happened in the news concerning that story, and see if you can find out anything you can about Black Lives Matter. And now to finish our assembly, we're going to have the song As One. Join in, sing along, and see if you can spot yourself in any of the photos. See you next week.